Hey, welcome back. Now I'm going to read Chapter 3, Part 1 of Mango Delight. This chapter is entitled The Pressure Principle. Pressure Principle. Brooke's blood-curdling scream brought the teachers on hallway duty flying to the girls' bathroom, where I was quickly apprehended and taken to the principal's office. After one of the teachers spoke in a low voice to Ms. Pegg, the principal's secretary, she looked at me over her glasses and said, "Have a seat, Margot. I have to call your parents in before you see Mrs. Lipschultz." "It's Mango." She looked up from her computer. "What?" "My name, it's Mango." "Oh, yes, right, beg pardon." I sank down on the bench, the mango pit in my belly swelling to record size at the thought of my mom having to come to school to meet with old Frosty Eyes. She would have to wake Jasper up from his afternoon nap, which made him really cranky, and this would interrupt her muscle torture workout schedule. Oh man, she was going to be mad to the 1000th power. The tap-tap, tippity-tap-tap rhythm of Ms. Pegg's typing made my eyelids super heavy and, well, I fell asleep because the next thing I knew, my father was shaking my shoulders, waking me up. I quickly wiped the slobber from the side of my mouth with the back of my hand and hoped I hadn't been snoring. Then my brain reloaded, and I realized it was Dada who came to get me. My mind started careening off into the uber-dramatic part of my imagination. Why was Dada here instead of Mom? Did something happen to her? Did she misplace her leg? Or have a car accident? Or maybe something was wrong with the baby? Did Jasper's eczema get worse? Did he have to go back to the hospital? Or was he kidnapped and Mom was out with the police searching for him? There was no way Dada would show up here if something weren't horribly wrong. You see, besides being the most handsome man on the planet, he was the chef at Manelli's Italian restaurant, and he was always busy at this time of the day making fresh pasta and prepping the kitchen for the dinner service. Something had to be really wrong if he left Manelli's to come all the way over to my school because of what I did. He sat behind me, his almond-shaped eyes crinkled with concern, and said, "Mango gal, what's a gwan?" That meant, "What's going on?" Dada was born and raised in Jamaica, and his accent swam all the way back to the island when he became emotional or worried, or when he was hanging out with his Jamaican friends laughing and slamming dominoes on the kitchen table. My throat was so swollen I couldn't dredge up any words of explanation for Dada. He held my shoulders. He held me as my shoulders quaked and I drenched his shirt with tears and crying snot. I thought I would never be able to stop weeping until Ms. Lipschultz stepped out of her office. Her gray hailstone eyes froze my tear ducts, and my crying jag was over. Ms. Lipschultz directed Dada and me into 2 wooden chairs that faced her desk. I thought these chairs were smaller on purpose, so she could tower over you from the high leather chair behind her desk. Even Dada, who was a tall man, seemed shrunken facing her frosty eyes from his chair. Although this was my first visit to the principal's office, it didn't mean I was a perfect angel who'd never been in trouble. My previous offenses were petty compared to what happened today. Talking in class, passing notes, chewing gum, excessive giggling, not obeying directions from the staff or student hallway monitors, power-hungry mini monsters who lived for a chance to carry a clipboard and push somebody around. They were the kind of violations your teacher would dole out punishments for, like staying after class for a private lecture, writing a 2-page essay on sticking gum under your chair and other ways of spreading germs to your fellow students, detention, where they kept you for 45 minutes after school, or worst of all, sending a note home to your parents that you had to return signed in the morning. But all of those misdeeds were piffles compared to the felony I was charged with today. Miss Lipschultz interlaced her fingers on the desk and got right to the point. "Destruction of property is a serious offense, Mango. Do you understand that?" I couldn't lift my head to face her cold stare, so I just nodded and mumbled, "Yes, ma'am." A little part of me was hoping Dada had noticed that I was being polite just the way he taught me. His lecturing me to say, "Yes, ma'am, yes, sir, please, thank you, you're very welcome, I beg your pardon, and excuse me, please," had not been in vain. I was hoping there was a slim possibility that my good manners would help excuse my crime in his eyes just a teensy-weensy bit. Ms. Lipschultz continued, "Then you must also understand that your actions come with consequences." Yes. I was beginning to feel like I was in court. Ms. Lipschultz was the judge and I was the accused. I began to lift my head a little bit, thinking, I can't be convicted without putting up a defense. It was my right. I had learned that from watching Judge Judy. It was also my right to have an attorney represent me. But since I didn't have one of those, I had the right to defend myself. Thank you, Law and Order reruns. I finally spoke. "I'm not guilty, Your Honor. I mean, your principal, Principal Lipschultz, ma'am." I cleared my throat and took a deep breath, trying hard not to keep sounding like an idiot. Ms. Lipschultz sighed. Brooklyn witnessed you tossing her new phone into the sink." I shot up out of my seat and thrust my finger into the air. "I object!" My outburst was so sudden and so forceful that it startled Ms. Lipschultz, Dada, and myself. Dada patted my shoulder. "Calm down, Mango." Ms. Lipschultz, having backed away from her desk at my outburst, rolled forward and said, "Take your seat, Mango. We are not in a courtroom. I'm more than willing to hear what you have to say on your behalf. Just sit down and speak calmly." I sat back in my low seat, unclenched my fist, and cleared my throat again. "I didn't toss Brooklyn's phone in the sink. I dropped it by accident because I was startled when she opened the door." Dada asked, "Why did you have a phone in the first place?" "Yes, thank you, Mr. Fuller. That was my next question, too," Miss Lipschultz said, cocking her head to one side and lifting her eyebrows in a "if you're so innocent, explain that, smarty pants" expression. Uh-oh. My inner girl code alarm started beeping and vibrating. If I explained that Brooke and Haley Joanne had hidden their phones in the trash can just before Miss Lipschultz came into the bathroom, I would be ratting out my best friend. But was she really my best friend anymore? My thoughts went back to what I had read on her screen. She probably couldn't win a race with her peg-leg mother, her peg-leg mother, her peg-leg mother, peg-leg. "Mango." I turned to face Dada. He said, "Answer the question." My throat started filling with prickly nettles because of the pain I felt realizing that those words were texted by my best friend's thumbs. The only friend I had trusted enough to bring into my home. The only one I trusted enough to open my mother's closet and reveal the trophies she had hidden away because that part of her life was still too hurtful for her to talk about. Brooklyn was the only person outside my family that I was comfortable enough to share family business with and even sing in front of, and she betrayed me. I lowered my head between my legs and tried to take deep breaths again, but it didn't work this time. The tears began to roll down my face and splash onto the floor. I was crying for my mother and mourning the loss of my bestie. I was all twisted up in knots because even though Brooklyn had treated me so badly, I still couldn't rat her out. She'd get in trouble if I said what she was doing with her phone in the restroom and that she and Haley Joanne had ditched them in the trash can before the principal caught them texting to each other. On top of all that, I'd be admitting that I'd been in the stall eavesdropping. And even worse, I'd be labeled a snitch for the rest of my days at True Heart Middle School. Snitches are branded, scorned, and left to spend the rest of their school days in a social desert without water, companions, or even a compass to guide them back to society. As much as I wanted to put Brooklyn on blast, the thought of being shunned for the rest of my middle school life was too heavy to bear. Dada rubbed my back. "Mango, baby, if you don't speak up for yourself, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of your actions. Come on, try to tell us what happened." I shook my head. It hurt too much to even stand up for myself. Ms. Lipschultz leaned forward and spoke softly. Mango, I understand that you and Brooklyn are close friends. I shook my head again, unable to shout no the way I wanted. I can see that something happened to cause a problem in your friendship, but whatever that was didn't give you the right to destroy her phone, even by accident. Perhaps you girls can work things out and become friends again. This time, I forced myself to push past the nettles of pain in my throat and blurt, "No!" All right, that's between the two of you. My job as your principal is to rectify this problem as best I can. My father spoke. "No worries, ma'am. We'll replace the phone right away." "Thank you. Now, as for the consequences of your actions, Mango, for the destruction of property on school grounds, I could suspend you, but I've never seen the sense in giving a child a vacation from school as punishment. Also, you're a good student, and I won't take away your ability to learn. However, because there is such a strong rift between you and Brooklyn, I am suspending you from Girls on Track for the rest of the school year." I lifted my head and shouted through my tears, "No! I love Girls on Track. It's not fair." I turned to my father. "Dada, please." But Ms. Lipschultz continued, "We have plenty of other extracurricular activities for you to explore, but some distance from Brooklyn seems necessary. I also need you to apologize to Brooklyn. I think that should be handled here in my office when you give her her new phone. Do you agree, Mr. Fuller?" "Yes, I believe that'll be best." "No," I said. "I won't tell her I'm sorry. I won't make up with her ever." Dada turned toward me. "Mango, don't be disrespectful." "I don't care. I'll never say sorry to her, not after what she did." Dada and the principal prodded and waited and prodded some more, but I wouldn't tell them what Brooklyn did. I wasn't protecting my ex-bestie. I felt I was protecting my mom, protecting her from the humiliation of ever finding out that I had exposed her personal business and that, because of me, she was being ridiculed by the queens of mean. That's the end of part 1 of this chapter. Something to think about before you start the next part of this chapter. Do you think Mango was right by not telling what Brooklyn and Haley Joanne were up to in the bathroom? Do you think she was right for not telling what Brooklyn wrote about her mom? Do you think they can ever be friends again? Something to think about. See you at the next part of this chapter.